Assalamu alaikum, my dear friends. Welcome back to top Lesson4u. Dear friends, as you know that we are discussing about the structure of the cell, right? So in the previous lecture I discussed about cytoplasm, and in the lectures before that we have covered the discussion about the structure of the cell membrane, the components of the cell membrane. In a big detail we have discussed that, right? Now in this lecture I'm going to discuss about the central part of the cell, the coordinating part of the cell, the most important part of the cell, that is the nucleus. So let's go for our discussion about nucleus. What is nucleus? So let me define it from this diagram. As we know that this is a cell, right? So in the cell we have a central part, central circular part, or other shapes it also has. I will discuss about that, right? Which contains the genetic makeup of the cell, which contains the genetic materials of that cell, right? And this central part is called the nucleus, right? Let me write one definition, then while I write the next definition of the nucleus, then I will explain it here, right? So what is nucleus? The part of the cell which encloses or which houses the chromosomes, right? So what are these? This is DNA, right? And when this DNA is while in the stage of division, it makes chromosomes, right? It makes chromosomes, right? So nucleus is the part of the cell which contains the chromosomes. The part of the cell, the part of cell which contain chromosomes. This is the very simplified definition of the nucleus. Let us write another definition also. This is not enough that we just write one definition. Let's move and write another definition also. So what is nucleus? Nucleus is the part of the cell which controls all the activities of the cell. How? Look, for example, if in the cell membrane we have a special protein, right? And the function of this protein is to pump in the potassium and pump out the sodium. So that's why we call this protein as sodium potassium ATPase or sodium potassium pump. So it is a protein. And due to some reason, this protein has been damaged, right? Now what will happen? If this protein is damaged, what will happen? This will create some damage to the cell. Yeah, but before it creates the damage of this protein, before it creates further damage to the cell, we have to synthesize new protein, right, to put it on that place, on this place, in order to save the cell from further damage, right? We have to make this protein. So how this protein is formed? For this protein, for example, this pump, sodium potassium pump is a protein. For this protein, there are certain genes on DNA. When this protein is damaged, these genes are activated, and these genes will make messenger RNA. And this messenger RNA will leave the nucleus and will be transcribed, will be translated by ribosome, and this ribosome will translate this messenger RNA into a protein, and that protein will come here and will bind here and will start working again, right? So who is responsible to make this protein? Ribosome. But who tells ribosome messenger RNA? From where does messenger RNA comes? From DNA, right? So all the activities which are occurring in this cell, all of these activities are controlled by this DNA, and this DNA is present in the nucleus. So we say that nucleus is the control center of the cell. Nucleus is the control center of the cell. Let me write here. Nucleus is control center of cell. What does it mean? It means that whatever happens in the cell, whatever is done in the cell, It is controlled by the nucleus. Why? Because this nucleus contains the controlling material, that is the DNA. This cell is in control of this DNA. If the DNA is functional, working well, the cell will work well. But if the DNA is damaged, then the cell will stop its working. Why? Because the controlling mechanism has been failed. And the controlling mechanism is present in the nucleus. So we say nucleus is the control center of the cell. As in a department, we have a head. And that head is responsible to control all the department. In a school, we have headmaster. We have principals. Those principals and those headmasters control all the activities of the teachers, all the activities of the students, all the activities of other areas related to the school. So that headmaster, that principal is playing the role of the nucleus, right? So we say here, what is nucleus? Nucleus is the principal or headmaster of the cell, right? Of cell. Who is nucleus? Nucleus is the controlling center of the cell. It controls all the activities of the cell. Done. Then about discovery of the nucleus. Discovery. For the first time, who saw the nucleus in the bloods of the amphibians was the Antony van Leeuwenhoek. For the first time, Antony van Leeuwenhoek, right? For the first time he saw the nucleus in blood of amphibians. He was the first man. The blood of amphibians, but we are not amphibians, we are mammals, right? Then the second scientist who came, and his name was the Follis Fontana, he discovered the nucleus in the epidermal cells, right? So his name is Follis Fontana. What did Follis Fontana do? He discovered epidermal cells. Epidermal cell, nucleus. But the most important thing and the most important work was done by the Robert Brown, the scientist who is responsible, who is the father of the nucleus, who discovered the nucleus, who was the Robert Brown. So Robert Brown in 1831 discovered the well-organized nucleus. Discovered well-organized nucleus, right? So these were the three scientists who for the first time saw nuclei, but Robert Brown was the one who discovered the nucleus fully, who discovered a full functional nucleus in the cell, right? So this was the discovery. Now what is the number of the nucleus? How many nuclei can be there in a cell? Number. Right? So there are certain cells which do not possess nucleus. In our body we have certain cells which do not possess nucleus. So all those cells, right, this is a cell and it does not possess nucleus. So all those cells which does not possess nucleus in our body, as we are studying human anatomy, right? We are studying human anatomy. So in our body we have certain cells that do not possess nucleus. When they become mature, the nucleus of them is finished, right? So those are called anucleated. Anucleated, right? So anucleated means without nucleus. Those cells which don't possess nucleus are called anucleated. So in our body we have anucleated cells, and the examples of that are RBC, red blood cells. Inside our mature RBC we don't possess nucleus, right? These are anucleated. Some cells possess one nucleus and those are called uninucleated. Uninucleated. So what are uninucleated cells? Those cells which possess, uni means one nucleus, are called uninucleated cells. For example, our body cells, right? Yeah, and certain cells are there which possess many nuclei. We call them multinucleated. So in our body we have multinucleated cells, right? So here we have the example, the smooth muscles, for example. Smooth muscles, a very suited example, smooth muscle. And the multinucleated, we have the skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles. So our skeletal muscles have many nuclei. Our liver muscles, right? So what is the number? If someone asks how many nuclei can be in a cell, in a human body, how many nuclei can be there? So we say in a human body there are certain cells which do not possess nucleus, the examples of which are RBCs. And in the human body there are certain cells which possess only one nucleus, so the examples of which are smooth muscles. And certain cells in the human body that possess many nuclei, right, more than one or two, those are the skeletal muscles, the examples, right? So this can be the number. What can be the position of nucleus in a cell? What can be the position of a nucleus inside the cell? So certain cells, there are certain cells, for example, this is a cell and it possesses its nucleus right in the center of the cell, right? So we say that nuclei can be in the center of the cell. Nuclei can be in the center of the cell. And there are certain cells which possess their nucleus a little bit towards the margin, right? So we say that this nucleus is present towards the side, a little bit away from the center. And there are certain cells which possess their nucleus right in the base of the cell. So we call it basal nuclei, right? And the example of these are the columnar cells in our body, right? Columnar epithelial cells. So these are the basal. So some cells possess their nucleus in the base of the cell. We call that basal nuclei, right? So the examples of these are the animal cells. Animals. And here we have plant cell. Plant cell nucleus is a little bit away from the center. And here we have the columnar epithelial cells. Epithelial cell. Which one? Columnar. Right? We will discuss about tissues in the next coming lectures of the cell. So the position of the nucleus can be in the center, can be towards the side, can be basal, right? And what can be the shape of the nucleus? Shapes. So certain cells, there are certain cells which possess nuclei which have round shape, right? So some nuclei may be circular or round. Circular shape, right? Some cells are there which possess nucleus which may be oval shape, right? Some nuclei may be of oval shape. You can differentiate here. So the shape can be oval, right? Some cells possess nuclei like this, which we call bilooped, right? So some shapes may be bilooped, right? And some nuclei may be multi-looped, like this, right? So these are the shapes of the nuclei. We should know multi-looped. For example, in neutrophil, I will explain it, right? So there can be another nucleus and that can be tri-looped. like this. So it has 3 loops, right? So that may be, no, this is 4, this is 5, tri-looped, right? And some nuclei have kidney shape. Some nuclei may be kidney shaped, right? So these can be the shapes of the nuclei, right? We have circular in our somatic cells. We have oval in certain smooth muscles in our body. We have oval shape. Biloop, eosinophils, multiloop, neutrophils, triloop, basophils, kidney shape. Yes, we have, again we can say that these may be basophils, right? So these can be the shapes of the nuclei. So we don't say that nucleus can have only one shape. Nucleus can have many shapes. Nucleus can have many positions, right? And nucleus cells can have many nuclei, one nucleus, or no nuclei, right? So these are the shapes of the nucleus. Now what is the size of the nucleus? Size. So the nucleus vary in size. Some nuclei are very small, some nuclei are a little larger, right? So for example, here are 2 cells, right? And the nucleus of this cell is like in this size, and the nucleus of this cell is a little larger. So we say that what can be the size of this nucleus? So the size of the nucleus may be 1 micrometer to 10 micrometer. This can be the size of the cell in different human cells, right? So this can be the size of the nucleus, right? Now about the structure of the nucleus, if you talk about the structure of the nucleus, that what are the parts of the nucleus, and those parts will be discussed in detail, right? So first of all we have a clear-cut envelope, right? First of all we have, for example, this is a cell, right? And this is the cytoplasm of the cell, and here we have the nuclear membrane, and then we have nucleoplasm. This is the nucleoplasm, right? So this green, as you can see here, is an envelope, or it is a membrane which separates the nucleoplasm from cytoplasm, right? So this membrane is called the nuclear membrane. So first of all, a typical nucleus has a nuclear membrane, or we call it nuclear envelope, right? The second thing that a nucleus will have is this inner space, and this is called the lumen, right? This is called the lumen, and we will see what structures are found in the lumen of this nucleus, right? Then there can be the nuclear pores. Number 3, there can be nuclear pores. And what are these nuclear pores? So in the nuclear membrane, there are certain small pores through which exchange of materials occurs between nucleus and the cytoplasm, right? So these are called the nuclear pores, and we will discuss these, right? So we know that if we talk about the structure of the nucleus, there is nuclear membrane, there is the lumen, there is the nuclear pores, and then there is a black body in the nucleus that is called the nucleolus, and I will discuss about the nucleolus and its structure in the next lectures, right? There is nucleolus, then there is the fluid part of this nucleus, and that is called the nucleoplasm, right? We will discuss the nucleoplasm and the composition of it, inshallah. Then there are some very small bodies which are called the speckle bodies or speckles. I will discuss about these speckles, inshallah. Then there is the cagal bodies. And what are these cagal bodies? We will discuss about them. And number 8, we have the PML bodies, right? We have the PML bodies. And what are these PML bodies, and what do they do inside the nucleus? We will see them, right? And then we have the most important thing, that is the DNA, or we say the chromatin, So there are two types of chromatin inside our cell. We have the euchromatin and the heterochromatin. I will discuss about both of them inshallah. We have euchromatin, right? And we have heterochromatin. So we will discuss about both of them, what is euchromatin and what is heterochromatin. So if you want to know about the nucleus completely, we will discuss all these parts of the nucleus, then we will finish with the nucleus, right? So see you in the next lecture, and we will start from the nuclear membrane and we will end at the DNA and the chromatin, right? So in the next lecture, friends, if you like the lecture, please share these videos with your friends and invite your friends to this small channel so that we will grow with you guys, right? So see you there. Thank you so much.